Hey Joy family, happy Tuesday. It is great to be coming to you again. And we're going to get into our miracle of Jesus as we've been talking about for today. But before we do, let me tell you a couple things that are coming up and give you a little bit more information about what's coming up this week at Joy. First of all, our Ladies Connection. A time of fellowship and just a time of connecting with each other, encouragement, is going to be happening this Thursday at 7 o'clock down in the Dell, which is right down the hill from the church in the Haddon Heights Park. And all ladies are invited to this. They have a great time just getting together. They spend some time praying and just talking and connecting with each other. So want to invite you out to that. Also, on Sunday, we talked a little bit about our Seeds of Hope project for this month, where we're going to be supplying 125 lunches that will be then distributed to the homeless in Camden at the end of this month. Now, this week, we're going to be putting up a link on Facebook and on our website, probably sending it out in an email, about signing up to help get items to make up these lunches, and then also when we're going to be assembling all these lunches. So be looking for all of that this week as we get further. And then this weekend at a time of worship together, we're in chapter 14 and probably going into 15 of Romans this coming Sunday, as this incredible letter of Paul starts winding down for us, and we see all the more how the gospel is unleashed in and through our lives. So we want to invite you out to that. We have in-person worship and also via our live stream at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Now, getting back to the miracles of Jesus. We've been talking about some of my favorite miracles of Jesus that reveal something about him. Remember, Jesus' miracles weren't just these supernatural acts, but they were also meant for a purpose to reveal who he is and why he came. So in these miracles, and today we're looking at a very interesting miracle. Actually, this week, both of our miracles have a couple things in common. One is the personal touch of Jesus, and we're going to look at that on Thursday, why that's significant. But also, 2 blind men get healed. So today's is very interesting because this is a miracle unique to the Gospel of Mark. Mark is the only Gospel writer who talks about this miracle. And secondly, this is unique because it's done in 2 stages. Now, certainly Jesus can heal someone in an instant, but here it's in 2 stages. And it's in 2 stages for a reason, and we're going to look at that. So this account is found in Mark chapter 8. So let's read it, and then we'll talk a little bit about it and how Jesus is revealing himself. It says, "And they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. And when he had spit on his eyes and laid his hands on him, he asked him, 'Do you see anything?' And he looked up and said, 'I see people, but they look like trees walking.' Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes, and his sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. And Jesus sent him to his home, saying, 'Do not even enter the village.'" So here we have a bunch of interesting things in here. First of all, Jesus goes to the city of Bethsaida. And Bethsaida is an interesting city because it's a city where later on we find that they rejected Jesus. So it might not be all that spiritual of a city. Then we see this blind man, and these people bring this blind man to Jesus. Now, they could have known this blind man. He could have lived. Obviously, he didn't live in the village. We find that because he says, "Go home and don't enter the village." But it could have been just that these people have heard about Jesus healing. They wanted to see him heal, so they just went out and found somebody that needed healing, and they brought him to Jesus. And that might be the case more than not, because Jesus then removes this man, and it says they go off alone. They go outside the village, leave the people behind. So that Jesus wants this miracle to be for this guy, right? Now, we also see that this blind man probably wasn't born blind, because when he starts to see, he says, "I see people like trees walking." So at one point, he knows what trees look like and he knows what people look like. So he probably had his sight and lost it. Now, into the progressive part of this miracle. So Jesus takes this man and he spits in his eyes. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that on Thursday with another incident that's kind of like this. But Jesus spit in his eyes, and then he touches him. And he says to the man, "What do you see?" And the guy says, "I see people, but they look like trees walking." So I can see, but everything's blurry. And then what happens is Jesus then, and he touches him again. And he says, "Now what do you see?" And all of a sudden he could see clearly. And then Jesus told him, I don't want you to go back to the village. I want you to just go home. And this could be a reason because the people were just using this man to see a miracle of Jesus. And Jesus is like, I don't want to just be known as a miracle worker. This isn't why I came. So if you go back to the village, through the village, that's what's going to be. And it's going to be all hate again. But anyway, to the progressive part. Now, some people have looked at this miracle and said, well, this man's faith wasn't perfect. So Jesus did it in 2 stages to strengthen his faith. And that's very possible and very probable in this case. But there's another thing going on that I find very interesting when I think of who Jesus is and why Jesus came. And it's this. Jesus came not only to save us, but to grow us. Jesus isn't only good for salvation. Jesus is good for sanctification, or making us holy, growing us into holiness. And the reason why I say that is sometimes we come to faith in Jesus, and it's an awesome thing, and we said, all right, Jesus did all of this work for me, and he is the one who has made me new and has made me clean. Now, my work begins, and I have to work hard, and I need to grow myself, and I need to discipline myself, and it's all up to me now to grow closer to God. That's not necessarily the case. You see, the same God who saves us is also the same God who grows us. We don't do work in our salvation. Jesus did that work. And Jesus also does the work to sanctify us, to grow us through the Holy Spirit in us. So I think Jesus is kind of showing this in this miracle, right? So he comes and he spits on this man's eyes. Now, why did he spit on this man's eyes? Jesus could have spoken a word. I mean, we have people touch his robe. We have Jesus just speaking a word and people are healed. Why is Jesus spitting on this man's eyes? Well, it could be a bunch of different reasons. One is to show this man that he's there. Another may be some thought that the saliva was soothing. And this man, since he wasn't blind from birth, maybe as he had a condition where there was pain involved, and spitting on the eyes would have soothed that. So Jesus is showing this man, I haven't come just to give you sight, but I've also come to soothe you, to care for you. So in that sense, it was an act of caring. And then he says, and then he touches the man, and he says, what do you see? And the man can see. Now, he can't see clearly, but he can see. And isn't that the way sometimes with salvation? We come into new life in Jesus Christ and our faith in Jesus Christ, and we come to salvation, and we're excited, and we're like, yes, everything is brand new. But we don't necessarily understand everything, do we? We don't really understand what our faith is about, or even what all salvation entails, and who we are in Jesus. We just know that we're saved, and that we are new, but we don't necessarily know what it means to be new. So we need a continual touch from Jesus to grow in our relationship with God. You see, Jesus saves us, and he also grows us. So when the man sees, and there's excitement in him, right? I see people, and they're like trees walking. Wow, I can see. And if Jesus had just done that, it would have been an amazing miracle. Just like salvation. Salvation, Jesus gives us sight. But then in sanctification, or growing in our relationship with God, we gain clarity. We gain clarity in who we are. We gain clarity in who God is and what our relationship with him looks like, what it means to be a child of God, what it means to be a new creation, and all of these things. So what Jesus does is he has a second touch of the man, and he says, you know what? You still need me. So this is an instance where this guy's blindness was so severe, Jesus didn't have enough power. Jesus had enough power. He could have made him have received sight right away. So it wasn't that. It wasn't that the man necessarily didn't have enough faith that Jesus says, I'm only going to heal you partial because you only have a little bit of faith. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? Again, Jesus gives us our faith. So, faith is small as a mustard seed. So it's not necessarily that. So there's something else going on. And here's where I think it is that Jesus is saying, I can come in and I can rock your world, make you brand new, make you see again. But also, I don't leave you. I'm going to be here every step of the way with you to grow you so you have clarity. So Jesus touches him a second time. Okay? The second time isn't salvation, right? He didn't go from being blind to being seeing. It's just what he was given after the first touch now became clearer. So it's not progressive salvation in that we need 2 steps of salvation, but it's that he was saved, and now he began to understand what his salvation meant. So that's why I like this miracle of Jesus, because it shows us that Jesus not only saves us, but Jesus grows us. Jesus gives us clarity in what he has already done for us. So I want you to be encouraged by this today in your own faith, we need to follow and all of these things, but it's ultimately Jesus who then grows us and gives us clarity. So keep clinging to him. Keep hanging on to him. Jesus is good for so much more than just salvation. He wants an ongoing relationship with him so that he can grow us, that he can shape us into all that God has created us to be as new creatures in him. So have a great week, and we'll be visiting you again Thursday for another blind man that Jesus heals. Have a great day, Joy.